Welcome to Logic Day 1. This is Unit 2, Day 1 Notes, Conditional Statements. We're going to go over the basics of logic. So the first thing you need to know is inductive reasoning is just reasoning based on patterns. I went to school on Monday, I went to school on Tuesday, I went to school on Wednesday. My conclusion is on Thursday, I'm going to go to school. Okay, that's my conclusion. Now, a conjecture is my conclusion based on the inductive reasoning. The other reasoning is deductive reasoning, which we will go over later. A counterexample is just an example that shows that my conclusion or my conjecture is false. And I'm going to give you an example. So it says if the name of the month starts with the letter J, it is a summer month. Well, let's think about the months that start with the letter J. Can you think of one that's not in the summer? Can you think of one that can prove us wrong? The one that's off the top of my head, the one that I can think of the first is January, right? It follows your hypothesis. It starts with the letter J, but it does not follow the rule. It is not a summer month. So January is not a summer month. So that's my counterexample. That's an example of when my hypothesis and conclusion are false. You guys do that same thing for the next two examples. Give me a counterexample for these two. A negation does not always mean we're going to insert a not in there. It means we're going to make the sentence the opposite. So it says the negation or opposite of a statement. And our symbol is a tilde. Looks like this. Like that. The negation of I am going is I am not going. However, if we want to negate the sentence I am not awake, negating it means we're going to say the opposite. I am not awake. The opposite of that is I am awake. So we negated both. So we're going to go over the basics of conditional statements. A conditional statement has two parts. We have a hypothesis, which is after the if. Not including the if, but after the if is my hypothesis. If symbol, and it's after the if symbol, and we're gonna use a P to represent our hypothesis and our conclusion, which is after the then, and that symbol is going to be a Q. So this right here is our representation for our if, our hypothesis, then our conclusion. So this arrow means if and then. If our hypothesis P, then our conclusion Q. Let's give an example with words. So if I said, if it is noon in Virginia, then it is 9 a.m. in California. We're going to use the underline, down here it says underline the hypothesis and circle the conclusion. So that's what I'm going to do for you right here. You're going to underline the hypothesis. The hypothesis is always after the if. We don't include the if, cross it out. If the hypothesis is actually, it is noon in Virginia. So you're going to write that down after the P. The P is your hypothesis. So it is noon in Virginia. Oops. And then the conclusion is after the then. Cross out the then. We're going to circle the conclusion. The conclusion it is 9 a.m. in California. We always use Cali for California. All right. So we're going to do the same thing. Underline the hypothesis and circle the conclusion. So remember, underline the hypothesis is after the if. And then circle, my conclusion is after the then. So after the if is my hypothesis. If, don't underline the if. An angle measures more than 90 degrees and less than 180. That is my hypothesis. My conclusion is my conclusion is, let me erase that. Don't underline the then. Okay, my conclusion is it is an obtuse angle, and you're going to circle it. Circle, circle, circle. All right, after the if, that is your hypothesis. So my hypothesis is a student is taking geometry. After the then, that is my conclusion. So my conclusion is they have math during an even block. Go ahead and flip your paper over to the next side. Making a conditional statement from just a sentence, right? We're going to put it, a conditional statement means we have to have if and then in it. If and then. So 2 points are collinear if they lie on the same line. After the if, that is your hypothesis. It's not always in the beginning of the sentence. Sometimes it could be in the middle. But we're going to have to rewrite it so that it's in the beginning. So I'm going to write if. And then we're going to write the part that's after the if. 2 points lie on the same line. Comma. And then after the then, we're going to say my conclusion. 2 points are collinear. Then they are collinear. That's what being on the same line means, right? We learned that in chapter 1. Okay. Now, after the if, my hypothesis is going to be all, and that's going to be my hypothesis. My conclusion is going to be whatever is after the, so this one is all fish, and then my conclusion is going to be swim. This is my conclusion. Whenever we have an all in there, this is how it works out. So if it is a fish, comma, then what is my conclusion? It can swim, or it swims. I want you guys to try the third one. Pause your video and try the third one now before you forget. The converse of the original conditional statement is represented by this symbol Q first and then P. So my conditional statement is P arrow Q. The converse is Q arrow P. So what we did was we flipped it. So we're going to use converse. The first 2 letters is CO. So we're going to remember converse CO, and we're going to remember that means to C, change, O, order. We're going to change the order. We're going to flip it. So let's look at this conditional statement. It says, if it is my geometry textbook, then it is blue. Remember, if, after the if, that is my hypothesis. And after the then, that is my conclusion. So they wrote it out for you. P is, it is my geometry textbook. Q is, it is blue. We're going to flip it. Remember, Q comes first now. So we're going to say, if it is blue, then we're going to do P. It is my geometry textbook. You guys can write it out, textbook. You don't have enough room. All right, now this is not always true. The conditional statement is true, but the converse, especially in this case, converse is false. What about my t-shirt? My t-shirt is blue, and that's not my geometry textbook. So my converse is going to be, can be false, not always. the inverse. The inverse is symbolized by not P, arrow, not Q. So remember this little tilde means not. We're going to negate it. This is not. Don't forget. This means not. And then we have not right here. We're going to negate it. So we're going to remember inverse by n-verse. N means negate, right? We're going to negate it. Leave it as a conditional statement and negate it. So my conditional statement for this one, it says, if it is raining, then practice is canceled. After the if, that is my hypothesis. And after the then, that is my conclusion. The inverse, we're just going to change each one. We're going to negate it. So if it is, right in there, not raining. Is it a promise? Then practice is not canceled. Oops, sorry. It's loud. Alrighty, cool. Now, the converse can be false, and then the inverse can be false. They go together in pairs. Converse and inverse go together in pairs. So this one says, if it is not raining, practice is not canceled. What if the coach is sick? Practice can be canceled, right? There's other reasons why practice can be canceled. So the inverse can also be false. However, if the conditional is true, my contrapositive has to be true. So my contrapositive is always true. You can write down a T for it, for true. All right, I'm going to show you what a contrapositive is. We're going to kind of put the converse and inverse together. We're going to put them together, and we're going to negate it. So my conditional statement, my original statement, remember, is P arrow Q. Right? My converse, we're going to negate, we're going to flip it and negate it. So not Q, and then not P. So we're going to remember this by C-O-N, capital C, capital O, capital N. And this means C is for change, O is for order, and then N is for negate. Change order and negate. So that's what I'm going to write down. Change order and negate. That's what we're going to remember, okay? Now, my conditional statement in this one says, if we are in Virginia, I don't know why my tablet doesn't want to go down. If, like my hypothesis is we are in Virginia, then my conclusion is we are not in Texas, right? We have those and change it. We're going to have to start with we are not in Texas. The opposite of that is if we are in Texas, then the opposite of we are in Virginia is we are not, capital not, come on, capital not, in Virginia. Don't forget about it. We're going to go over this a lot more in class and review. I'm going to explain more things to you. But in the meantime, if you're confused, please watch this again. And I will see you in class tomorrow. Have a great day.